Hello, kick conflict to the curb. I'm Joyce Weiss, your host, and I have a very important question to ask you. Are you ready to hear an inspirational story that highlights our guests' personal struggles to overcome the trauma of war, poverty, and social isolation while still feeling tons of gratitude? Well, if so, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Take a ride. Ride of your life. Take a ride. You're feeling out of balance and you're put to the test. Take the ride of your life to reach your personal best. And we are back with our surprise guest, Lea Tran. Lea, first of all, thank you so much for this interview.
You're welcome. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, no, we're both wearing blue, and we really did not talk about that before. So
We got the memo somehow.
somehow, well, I would like to officially introduce you. And then I got these questions that I'm just burning to ask. So Lea Tran is a former boat person, refugee from Vietnam, a dynamic keynote speaker, a TEDx speaker, and the author of I Did Not Miss the Boat, which I did read, by the way. It highlights her personal struggles to overcome the trauma of war, poverty, and social isolation. Lea's story is an important reminder of what makes America truly a great nation, a country that gives promise to everyone who is willing to fight for a second chance in life. A graduate of Villanova University, Lea started her career as a medicinal chemist for 17 years and owned a high-end drapery business for 10 years in the greater Philadelphia area. As a speaker and a transformation coach, Lea inspires her audience to get out of their comfort zone, to embrace change in uncertain times, creating unexpected opportunities that will propel them forward. Here's a fun fact. I don't know if it's a fun fact, but it is a fun fact. Lea was an underground drug dealer in Vietnam before she became the drug maker in the United States. Woo!
Well, isn't it true though? Even though the intention was good, I was, in the communists, everything is black market. Everything
Yes,
is underground because we didn't have any freedom. There's no trading economic like the beautiful America, right? So even if you have
exactly.
money, you have to know the source to get whatever you need for your family, especially painkiller, antibiotic, those kind of things. So yeah, my mom was the drug dealer and I was the drug trafficker to
Wow.
save lives, to save lives. But it sounds fun, so I thought maybe I'll adapt that into my little repertoire that I'm
I,
a drug trafficker.
you know what? And I just need to let you and our viewers know that this is not just going to be a one-time show. Because I read your book, because I listened to your podcast with your son, Alexander. I've got so many questions, but at least we're going to start for a half hour to get what we get. And then, do you promise to come back?
I promise, Joy, you are such a
Okay.
joyful person. How can
Oh,
anybody say no to Joyce?
well, I have a family. Okay. So let's get to question number one. Please explain to us a little more about the title of your book, I Did Not Miss the Boat.
Well, so I did not miss the boat is pretty obvious, right? Everybody would say, "Oh, I missed the boat," meaning that you missed that opportunity of doing thing. It's funny that in Vietnamese they do have the same phrase, like you missed the boat, you missed um the train, the bus, whatever. But for me, the boat is has such a significant meaning because literally we did not miss the boat to escape out of Vietnam. So many refugees in that era had attempted sometimes five, seven, a dozen times, and they get caught by the government, and they keep getting caught, and they keep getting associated with the wrong people, get tricked into give them money and didn't have a way out. But this is more than just a boat. This is something my dad sweat for a whole year. And when you prepare things in life and you have a well plan, all you need is one beautiful execution. And that's what my dad did. And he didn't just save himself, his family of seven, but he saved other 495 people on that boat. So for me, that boat, I didn't know how significant it was for something my dad had built, that entire year of underground. Obviously, everything has to be underground. And to construct that massive number of people and a crew to build that boat, and buying the port, bribe from top to bottom, all the official from two different province, from, where we live into the countryside. So it's like, it's massive. And I didn't know the intensity of that hugeness until I write that book, and I'm looking at it. It's like, wow, that is the boat, not just something to take it lightly. And that's the boat that gave us freedom. One trial, we did it, and it was successful. And why do I want to miss the boat in life to living a life that my dad had provided me? So mentally, I felt like I'm still trapping in a place where, a lot of us saying that we're not enough, we are not worth to live the life that we want. I don't want to miss that boat. My dad gave me the physical boat to be here. I need to open my mind and open to the things that I feel like, it served me so I can serve other people. So this is the second half of my life where I'm
Yes.
not going to miss my mental boat, a
Nope.
boat of being the best version of myself
And
since my.
Lee, you are, and I know that because we met in a group that we belong to called Video Rock Stars. And once I heard and read Lee's story, I knew I was going to invite her slash you to the show. And one thing that I'm always talking about, finding your voice. So you finally became confident using your voice. You mentioned this in the book, you mentioned this to me too. Why tell the story now after 40 years? And what do you hope to accomplish from your book?
Well, Joy, that is a beautiful question with many deep layers. So let me finish the first question, because that was just the top part, right? The second part is the subtitle, where I wrote a memoir of a Vietnam Hoa refugee. So the word Hoa, lots of people had no idea what that word Hoa means. Hoa means is what the Vietnamese people call us the Chinese minority who lived
Ah,
in Vietnam. Not HOA. Lots of people is like, "Whoa, what does Vietnam mean?
mm-hmm,
Vietnam's HOA?" It's like, no, it's not HOA, but it's spelled Hoa. It's spelled the same. It sounds like moi
mm-hmm.
in French, so it's called Hoa. So I feel like, that category of people have really underrepresented represented. um so it is, it's almost like Jewish people live in some other country, and they don't really know, and you can't lump all of them as, whatever the country. So I got
Mm-hmm.
lumped into like, oh, you're Vietnamese because you come from Vietnam. So all my life I gotta give it, we, my parents always give a distinction, and I grow up in a very bubble community of Chinese. We do everything in Chinese. We went to Chinese school. We have Chinese temple. We have a Chinese community, that business that we associate with. And, Vietnamese is like, we do stuff with them, but we don't call ourselves Vietnamese. So when we come to America, lots of people say, oh, you're Vietnamese from Vietnam. And immediately I have that feeling like, no, that's not who I am. So this book is another way for me to explain to the world that even though both people came to America, not all of them are Vietnamese.
Hmm.
And so the voice that I'm trying to portray is a minority group in Vietnam who made it out. And the struggle for me was my identity. I am so mixed up with my identity because, coming out at the age of 16 years old, I felt like I am shallow in every single root. I mean, I'm not Vietnamese, but I'm not
Hmm.
quite understand Chinese, because my dad went to China when I was 3 years old. I was born in Vietnam. So I never even know what China is about.
Hmm.
I've heard a lot of story from my dad about my grandparents, and they will die, they all die young, so I never even got a chance
Hmm.
to meet my dad's parents. I only met my mom's parents, but them too didn't last too long. So there's a lot of things that I really don't feel like get a grapple of who I truly am. Like, you feel like you're half baked everywhere. So for me, this book is to actually truly to understand who I am. Why take this long? It's just funny because I didn't know that 40 years is the magic mark. Because when I
Hmm.
joined the writing group and I say, yeah, it take me this long. This is my 40 year. And I really find like I'm confident enough to speak that voice and tell the story. So one of the gentlemen in my writers group, he said that, yeah, usually 40 years is when people are start
Ah,
talking, like the people from the Holocaust, and the people, veteran that went to Vietnam War, or people from Korean War. Usually they kept PTSD and silence for that long before they tell the story. So I was
sure.
like, wow, really? So he said, yeah, you're right on. I don't know where the study he got it from, but he said, yep, that's usually the number when people are start talking. I was like, wow. So I'm just very normal in the statistic, I guess.
Very normal. And your host, meaning me, it took me 40 years to find my story about finding my voice.
There you go. That's the
So
magic number.
that is, I guess, between you and me and that gentleman who told you that in your writers group. So for those of you listening, and if you are still figuring out how you can use your voice, it takes time to figure out
Yeah.
why you're not using it. And Lee, it's just, you sure are feeling comfortable using your voice, because I've heard you speak. Matter of fact, I had a chance to listen to your podcast with your son Alexander called
Ah.
Family Roots Podcast. And could you tell us what happened to Alexander when he heard your story and how that podcast came about? Please.
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. That is a side bonus. That is totally a side bonus because, first of all, I wrote the book is to satisfy me, to, like I said, to find my identity, what I believe, what value I had, instilled from my parents, all those things, and then to find out where my parent came from, and many things that I need the answer for me. And then the next thing I know is like, that this book is a piece of history. It's a piece of history, not just for the family, for the Hoa people, but also for the people who lived in the Vietnam War, for the people who have associated with the Vietnamese people, that who, for many American, it's a part of history in the American textbook as well. But when my son read the book,
Mm.
his jaw dropped. He's like, I have no idea that you and grandpa and grandma went through the life, it's just like he couldn't even fathom from the textbook, because they don't really go deep in
No,
the textbook at school, in
no.
high school. all you get mentioned is maybe a chapter or two about the Vietnam War, but we actually been through the war, live through the war, get out of the war. So there's many things. So he said that, so first of all, my niece is also the one who benefit from it too, because one day out of the blue, she called me and she's like, how come I don't know anything about grandma and grandpa in our family? How come you guys don't talk anything about, our family background? So that really got me to think, oh my God, I have to write this book and I have to write it in a hurry because they are curious. I mean, there's no better time than your niece, your nephew, your son, your children. I say, I want to know. So that was one thing. And then my son called me up after he read the book. He's like, I want to participate too. Not just
Wow.
Emily's going to help you editing it. So I said, what would you like to do? She's already helped me editing and you don't like writing. She's like, I want to ask questions. Lots and lots of questions. After I read the
Mm,
book, I felt like I'm just fall out from a different planet. So I need to know what's going on. And maybe an hour is not going to be enough. So I say, so what do you suggest? It's like, I want to do a podcast. And
yes.
I was jumping with joy because no better person to ask me question than talking to your own son and knowing that what
Mm,
he couldn't understand and explain to him. And he said, Mom, this podcast is not only to find out about who my grandparent is, who what you went through, but also for you to understand me as American born American, that I have a different mindset. I have a different way of thinking. So I was like, wow, what a great way to open communication
mm,
between the generation. Talking about kicking the conflicts. We
yes,
even get it before the conflicts, right? But because when he
absolutely.
was young as a teenager, we did have a lot of conflict, Joy. We didn't understand. And, I'm just a mold from my parents, and I've tried
Of
to raise
course.
him thinking that, what my parent did. And then just kind of like sometimes you don't even think, you just kind of do it,
Mhm.
right? And then he asked me a lot of profound questions when he was young as a teenager that make me re-examine my attitude, my way of talking to him. And now with this book, he want to ask me a question on the podcast. So to resolve whatever the gaps between our
Mm,
generation and our culture, because even if he's Chinese, he's not real Chinese in a sense. He's American Chinese.
yes.
So I think what a great way to also help other families to open up their dialogue and their communications, so they will bring the generation together to celebrate in the commonality instead of the differences. So that's why I love your title, Kick the Conflicts. I mean, we
Thank you.
definitely are doing that.
So Lee, what advice do you have for people watching this interview and listening to you? They may not know that much about their family, or their family, they've kept it a secret because maybe there were gangsters, or maybe some of the people weren't the most upstanding. Um, what motivation could you give them to start asking if they're lucky enough to have grandparents or aunts or uncles while they're still here?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So first of all, um, what advice do I have? I would
Mhm,
say be proud of who you are, first of all. So for many years, I've kind of like resent my disadvantage coming here.
mhm,
I don't have grandparents like, most kids have. I don't have grandparents' memory except that one grandma that from my mom.
mhm.
She was alive up until I was 12. And that was just many years ago back in Vietnam. So I was always sort of like not ashamed, but resent the fact that I come from a very unprivileged, unadvantaged, and I just didn't feel like I have anything to contribute to the conversation because people have so many good memories, and all my memories
Yes.
from my childhood are just like, yeah, icky, yucky, all the things that I didn't want to talk about. And our family didn't really talk a whole lot, except we would say jokes about the certain things or the certain circumstances, but we don't really open up to have a real conversation, a heart to heart conversation about what our parent been through. What did we think in that period? So first of all, I would say that be proud of your roots.
Love
Be proud of your roots. Be proud of who you are. Be comfortable
that.
in your own skin. And it took me 40
Wow.
years to be comfortable in my own skins. I mean, what is it to be in your own skins? Not afraid of people judging when you tell your family background,
Yes.
not afraid of being judged, not afraid of being looked down at. I mean, for the many years, I mean, my family came to America and
Mm,
we started out with nothing. So we were on welfare. And I was like, I don't want people to know that my family was once in welfare, you know? So I was ashamed of that.
of
But
course.
that is the fact that, you go through a hard time and you get help from the government. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Um, and you don't stay there. You look your way out to see what you can do to improve yourself. So yeah, number one is be proud of who you are, reconnect with your roots. And I would say that open the dialogue, talk, talk to your parents, talk to your children. By talking to my mom, asking my mom a lot of questions, I no longer blame her. I no
Oh,
longer
wow.
resent her. I know I understand her more than pointing the fingers. She did a lot of things. She did the best she could
At the
as the
time.
person she was raised at the time. She
Sure.
didn't have the privilege that I have. She didn't have the freedom that she gave me. So
No.
so there is so many aspects that I say that once you open up, the path will get bigger and bigger, and your communication, your empathy, your love, things will get better. And there's always going to be some small conflicts in the family, right?
Oh,
I mean, who doesn't have this dysfunctional family that they always call
yes.
dysfunctional, or conflicts? And even husband and wife,
Always.
parents and children, we always have a different point of view. But what's the best part is we can understand why they think the way they think, and what make them think the way they think. And my son
Yep.
is open up the road for me to understand that he loves me anyway, because the way that was brought up and the way I was thinking. And I love him regardless,
Mm.
because he has a different mindset, a different way of thinking. So I would say, yeah, open up the dialogue with your family.
I love that. Opening up the dialogue, and you're a transformation coach. So you're transformed your skills to Alexander. He is asking you the questions. When we ask questions, we're not judgmental. Of course, you could be if you are judgmental, but you really want to get into the dialogue. Asking questions, you're going to get answers. It's called understanding. And first of all, how old is your son now?
He is going to be 27 in
27,
December, in about 10 more days.
10 more days. And what? And I'm asking because I'm curious. I don't know this answer. I haven't known any of the answers I asked for the questions. What is he doing? What has he
Well,
chosen to do?
uh, his he graduated from college. I have to say, I only have one son, and I'm super, super, super proud to be a mom of a son that I think, he have taught me so many things in life. Even when he was young, I
Mhm.
watch and I learn from my son. Sometimes you want to say that you're the mom, you have good influence for your son. Yeah, that's part
Sure.
of it. But your sons, your daughter, they have their own characters, and they are can be someone that you learn from too. I've
Mhm.
learned a bunch from all my nieces and nephew. And if you watch the young people, they have that exuberance of confidence, of things that only in American society can teach them. I mean, I grew up in the Eastern culture,
Sure.
and I'm always waiting for permission, waiting for order, waiting for to be told what to do. But kids in America are very different. They train in school, be initiative, take action, speak up. All those things I learned from the younger ones.
Yes. And lucky you, and lucky us to have you as a guest, and lucky Alexander and your family, that you have learned yourself how to use your voice and how to appreciate the differences. And that's what I have an expression called different equals different. Different does not equal wrong.
Right.
And this is the number one challenge that we have when we're with family. And we've got Thanksgiving coming up for those of you who live in America. And it could be interesting conversations when we get together with family members who are different. So I want to go on. I have about 20 extra questions. Will you, first of all, you are going to come back, right?
I am coming back.
Okay.
Anytime, Joyce.
And tell us about your book. And I know your website is leatran.com, which is on the ticker right down there. And tell me, how could people get your book and why is it perfect this time of the year?
Well, I think it is perfect because it's Thanksgiving. It's going to be the biggest season of the year, Christmas. Even if you're not Christian, I think a lot of holiday kind of fall in this time of the year. Just to name a few, like I don't want to name it all, but I know that it is a season of giving. And I think my book would probably trigger a lot of conversation between diversity and inclusion, between how to build a brand new life if you have uncertain times. And we are in the uncertain times, right? That's COVID, nobody planned for it and it just hit. And nobody planned my family. My dad didn't plan to escape out of Vietnam and communists just hit. So how can one family survive? And maybe that would give you a little anchor of hope that things will be okay if you plan, if you take action, if you do the things that proactively embracing that change before it comes.
Yes.
And preventative. I mean, I love the kick the conflict things from your show. It's all about conflict prevention, right? And if you can prevent the conflict, it's better than solving the conflict. If you can prevent a catastrophe, or you can prevent things that, certain things you can't, like if my dad come out to the sea and we got 3-story waves and it kills our boat, there's nothing we can control or prevent. But if he planned for everything, have a sturdy boat and know his way out, it's only take one trial to get it done. Right. And I'm all about prevention and all about taking action to move your life forward in a better way, finding opportunity before you're missing out. So that's what my book is. And I think it's a really great discussion for book clubs or libraries. If you've read my book, Joyce, do you think that would be a great gift to give friends and family?
Oh my gosh. Not only would it be a great gift, I know I'm going to go back to it, because when we come back, you're going to talk to us about pirates. You're going to talk to us about some of the challenges just on that boat ride that we couldn't get into today. So yes, I'm hoping we've created enough curiosity for people to get it.
And I am talking about the real pirates in my life.
Yes.
But what is the pirates in your life? In everybody's one's life?
Yes.
I mean, every one of us have a pirates. We just not acknowledging them. I mean, my pirates is like literally the pirates out in the ocean.
Absolutely.
But in my life, I'm thinking there's so many other pirates that rob me because I allow them to do it. And I just want to let people know that you are in control. No pirates can rob from you if you know your way around. And
No. Oh my God. It's a great book. It's an easy read. I couldn't put it down. And do people go to your website? Is that how they find it?
yes, if you want a signed copy, go
Mm-hmm.
to leetran.com, and I will even wrap it nicely
Ooh,
as a Christmas gift or a holiday gift. If you have a person's name, I will sign with the person's name and give me the right address you want to send to. If you have a book club, everybody can get to one place, and I can find a way to save you shipping. Just contact me, and then I can ship 20-30 books to one place with
great.
very little shipping costs. Yeah, and if you don't want to buy from me with the autograph, you can go online and buy it on Amazon.
Sure.
You have Kindles, so there's many ways to get my book.
Great. Well, thank you. Well, Lea Tran, I want to thank you for being such a wonderful guest. This is episode number 1 of many, and you promise that you will come back.
I promise I will come back, Joyce, and I
Right.
want to thank you for having me on your show. It's an honor and
Oh,
such a pleasurable conversation, and I love what you're doing. Thank you so
thank
much
you.
for having me.
Well, Mutual Admiration Society here with the 2 ladies in blue. Well, thank you so
We even
much.
think alike. See, we even
I
like the
know.
same color.
Absolutely. There's so much that we do. Well, thanks again. And viewers of Kick Conflict to the Curb. Again, this is only number 1. I'm going to have Lea Tran back. Please leave a comment of what you thought about our show. And I look forward to our next episode.